more information, visit the Red Cross website at www.redcross.org.
Representatives of the Islamic Institute were on Capitol Hill today to meet with congressional leaders about how the Muslim American community has been impacted by last week's terrorist attacks and their aftermath. Afterwards, they joined Representatives Sheila Jackson Lee, Dana Rohrabacher, and others at a news conference just outside the Capitol. Their comments are about 20 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Abdulwahab Alkebsi. I'm the Executive Director of the Islamic Institute. And this morning we had a meeting with the House leadership. We had the Speaker, Dennis Hastert, Minority Leader Gebhardt. We had the Minority Whip, and we also had David Bonnier, and we had J.C. Watts. The meeting was substantive. We talked about many issues. And I'll introduce to you Mr. Khaled Saffuri, who's the President of the Institute, to say a word.
Thank you, Abdulwahab. My name is Khaled Saffuri. I'm the President of the Islamic Institute. We had a meeting this morning that was organized by the Speaker's office and the Minority Leader, Mr. Gebhardt, to address the issue of intolerance and the victimization of different ethnic and religious minorities in this country, mainly Muslims. As you know, also there was many Sikhs that were targeted in the last few days because people could not tell the difference between them and the Taliban. There was also in the meeting representatives of different Christian denomination, Rabbi David Saperstein, also representing the Jewish faith, and representative of the Hindu religion. We value this move by the House leadership, and I would like to read a statement and then we'll go from there. On behalf of the Muslim community, the American Muslim community stands in solidarity with the entire country in condemning the terrorist attacks for September 11th that took place on September 11th. I'd like to read from the Quran also. God says in the Quran, he who has killed an innocent soul is like killing the entire humanity. And he who gives life to any is like giving life to the entire humanity. These few words symbolizes how life is so important in Islam. Would like to also extend our condolences to all the families and individuals, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, who have been victimized by those terrible attacks. We thank our President Bush, and his cabinet members for their compassionate remarks against anti-Muslim and anti-Arab backlash. We also thank the congressional leadership for the congressional declaration that was passed in both the House and the Senate last week. We thank their leadership. Our thanks go to our neighbors, law enforcement agencies, churches and synagogues that extended their support to our community during these difficult times. Last week, a mosque in Sterling was vandalized, and their next door neighbors, the church, collected money and brought it on Monday to help repair the mosque and repair the damage that was caused by these attacks. We'd like to thank all our American friends and neighbors that stood with us in these difficult days, and we also extend our support and our condolences to the families of the victims of the last attacks in New York and in Washington. And I would like to ask my friend Aasim Ghafoor to speak on behalf of Muslim congressional staffers.
Thank you, Khaled. My name is Aasim Ghafoor. It's Ghafoor. I'm a former congressional staffer for Congressman Ciro Rodriguez and acting as political director for the Islamic Institute. But before I make my statement, I would like to recognize Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston, who recently created a task force to help the Muslim and the other immigrant communities who have been facing reprisals. I'd like to ask Sheila Jackson Lee to say a few words before I proceed with my statement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, Congresswoman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and I stand probably symbolic of many of the members of Congress who are finishing up meetings this morning to support the meeting of the leadership team that met with the Islamic Society this morning, and to be able to announce to America There is no better time to stand with our friends than in times of trouble. America is well known to stay committed to its friends, and the Muslim community in the United States of America and around the world are not our enemies. Muslims do not equate to terrorism. Immigration does not equate to terrorism. And the frank point of this is that we have an infrastructure in our country that is looking to take advantage of fear. The single victory of terrorists is to make the nation of which it attacks fear itself and turn on itself. And this past week, I stood in front of a massive group of members of the Muslim community in Houston, Texas, and I held up 4 and 5 pages that were citations of incidences around this nation that included attacks against mosques, Muslim families, but how sadly, against children. Can you imagine to attack the children of the nation? And so I thought it was vital that we came together in Houston, Texas, masses of Muslims from all different aspects of the community, and organize a federal task force that included the FBI, included the ATF, the Immigration Services, the United States Marshal, and in one voice, we said to the community and to the state of Texas that the federal government stands with these innocent and law-abiding citizens, and that we stand on the front line to receive any information where they are being troubled or being attacked. I was very proud of those federal agencies. We now have direct line contact to them. We feel that this will help to secure the information, and we're very proud of the mayor of the city of Houston and law enforcement that deals with this. This is one community. We stand here in Washington today to frankly commit ourselves to uphold the resolution that was passed within the 24 hours of the attack on September 11th. We stand behind that. This is a federal government that will go to any lengths to fight against those who would deny our civil rights and civil liberties and would deny one group its right to the democracy of this nation. And as we stand, we will together fight terrorists, and we will embrace each other as brothers and sisters. To America, I say, we are better than the terrorists. We are united, we are democratic, and we face a evil force together, and we will overcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman.
Awesome. Go ahead. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. As I prepare to give my statement, I would like to take another break to introduce Congressman Gene Green from Houston. Gene Green has at least 2 mosques in his district. It's a predominantly Hispanic district, and there are Hispanic Muslims in his district. So he speaks from a very diverse, cosmopolitan part of Houston, and I'd love to have him say a few words. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Gene Green. I represent a district in Houston, North Houston, that, like he said, is 60% Hispanic, but very diverse. In fact, we do have mosques. In fact, last fall I was at a mosque. I think it's important that we realize that for American people to blame Muslims in general for the terrorist attacks is like blaming Lutherans for World War II. It's just outrageous. And the beauty of the United States is we pride ourselves on our differences. I represent a 60% Hispanic district. I'm proud of that. That in America we are from different cultures, different religions, different ethnicities. And yet, when we're attacked, like Tuesday a week ago, we respond as Americans. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, whether you're Muslim, Methodist, Catholic, Jewish, we're Americans. And that's what we need to remember. The enemy is the terrorist, not the Muslim faith, not any faith. Because as I know of, Muslim faith is a very peaceful faith, what it teaches. And just like we have Christians who will take the Christian faith and carry it to the extreme, we have lots of other faiths in the world. But again, we're Americans, and we need to treat everyone based on our diversity and value that. But also the bottom line is that no matter what color you are, what religion we are Americans. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Glad you got to meet the leadership.
Thanks, Gene. And one of the goals of the Institute is to identify Muslim Americans in key policy positions, current and former. Right now, I'd like to introduce Jameel Johnson. He's the Chief of Staff to Congressman Gregory Meeks from New York.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I want to thank everyone for coming out. I want to thank the Islamic Institute for putting this together. As Mr. Gafoor stated, I am Jameel Johnson. I'm Chief of Staff to Congressman Gregory Meeks. And I want to say the Congressman is very much in support of not only the initiatives that will have to be taken to combat terrorism in this country and abroad, but he's also very concerned and very supportive of the Muslim community here in America and abroad. He's a member of the Committee on International Relations, and he also has 10 masjids right in his district, some of which he's been visiting during this time because of the threats and other issues that have come about as a part of this situation. You may have recently heard this week about a couple of airline incidents in which either other members of the flying public or the airlines themselves chose to put people who they believe either be Muslim or Arab or Indian off the plane simply because of the way that they looked. I want to say the Congressman is very much against this. He's a person who understands the brotherhood of Islam and the fact that I myself, who am Muslim, can make it clear to you that the Quran says that he who kills one person, it is like, without just reason, it is like he has killed the entire world. And he who saves the life of one person, it is as if he has saved the entire world. And this goes, when we talk about the entire world is not Muslim. So Allah teaches us that this goes for the life of Muslims and non-Muslims alike. We appreciate the statements by the president and him going to visit the mosque and taking that role of leadership that he's supposed to take in making it clear that this is a fight against terrorism and those who would hurt those who are innocent, and not a fight against individuals. And we also hope that all members of Congress, like Sheila Jackson Lee and others and Mr. Bonnier and Mr. Hassard and others who have taken the right position and spoke out against any kind of discriminatory actions that are being taken by Americans, because to treat one group of people in this way is almost in itself another form of terrorism. And we call on those other members, some of whom have been less responsible and have made statements such as diaper heads and other things that I don't want to say, that they would not look to go after the racist vote, not go after the discriminatory vote, but provide the leadership that they have been elected to provide to bring this country together. And once again, I want to thank the Islamic Institute and others for putting this together, because this needs to be said over and over again until it gets through the heads of all the American people. Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to introduce Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, a Republican from California, who have always exemplified embodying the forces of good against the forces of evil. And boy, is this a time to embody the forces of good. Congressman Rohrabacher.
Oh, boy, that's quite an introduction. I hope I can live up to that. Let me just say that America is meeting the test. It's clear. It's not just a test of can we strike out and do justice to those thousands of Americans who were slaughtered by terrorists, but can we meet the test of standing up and being true to our own standards as a nation, standards of justice and liberty that our country is supposed to be about, even in a time of crisis like this. And although there are some minor cases that we know about, by and large, and the overwhelming number of the American people, and especially the leaders of the United States of America, are making it clear that America will hold true to its principles and protect the rights of all of its citizens. I would ask the Muslim community in the United States to recognize this country, by and large, and especially the leadership of this country, has met the test. We are standing up for their rights at a time and in a crisis when their rights could very easily be violated. And I would ask the Muslims around the world to note what kind of country the United States is. We are proving that today by reaching out to our Muslim community. The President of the United States made that a plea to the people of the United States in his speech last night, and to the Muslims of the world, that we are friends and we must act as allies in this great endeavor to seek justice during this crisis and seek justice for those Americans who were slaughtered by these terrorists. I'm proud of our country, and I think that Americans who are Muslims and Christians like myself and Jews stand together today and say America is meeting the test in a crisis. We are reaffirming those values of liberty and justice for all that America is all about. This can do nothing but do good things and strengthen our country in the fight ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Congressman Rohrabacher, I've never been more proud to be an American, whether I was standing behind the president in the mosque, or sitting today with the leadership of the House, or Wednesday morning when my non-Muslim colleagues in my office walked in support and camaraderie. It is good to be an American, especially these days. Thank you very much, Congressman Rohrabacher. And again, I introduce Asim Ghafoor.
Hi, at this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions.
What issues did you discuss in the meeting this morning?
There's a wide variety of issues. We started on the immediate issues of reprisals. There were members of other faiths there. There was a member of the Sikh community, member of the Hindu community, and the chaplain for the House, who's a Catholic, another Catholic leader. We talked about, and a member of the Jewish community was there too. We talked about how the reprisals are reminiscent of of earlier times in World War II and what we can do proactively to prevent that from happening. We talked a little bit about inclusion of Muslim Americans and Pakistanis and others in the administration and in leadership positions so that we can have policy being analyzed by Muslim Americans who can have Muslim interests and American interests primarily at heart. And we talked a little bit about the follow-up, because the key to a dialogue is ongoing, and it was very constructive.
How do you feel it? Do you feel it was a useful meeting and that something will actually come out of it?
Yeah, we got some substantive commitments, no deliverables yet. We came up with some ideas. The rabbi who was there brought up an idea of having more interfaith dialogue at the local level and having a trickle down. We can meet with the leadership, we can meet with our current members of Congress. We need to meet at mayors and city council and others to continue that dialogue. And the leadership is committed to helping foster that through a Dear Colleague letter and through other events that they'll be planning.
I like to point that many of the attacks that happened did not only target Muslims. Many of these attacks targeted Sikhs that is entirely different religion. They are not Arabs nor Muslims. Some of these attacks targeted Hindus. There is a case in California of a Christian Egyptian who was killed because the attackers in many cases cannot tell the difference between religion and race. They just look for the color and the accent and they assume that those people are guilty. The leadership expressed disgust with these attacks, and they promised that they will carry on the message, and they recommended that from members of Congress going back to their district to raise these issues in the district, that Muslims in America are not Muslim Americans, are citizens. They fight in our army. We have one from the Navy here. He's a member of our staff. There is members who work in the State Department from our community. There is members from our community who are congressional staffers. We have one of them representing us. There is 6 members of Congress of Arabic origin also. All these issues were raised, and the leadership in the House showed their support, and they promised they will raise all these issues with the President and with the Attorney General and the FBI.
There's one speaker which I would really like to, if you could hold for another minute, he'll make a brief statement. Faisal Gill is a Navy JAG. He's also in the U.S. Naval Reserve, and wanted to show the face of Muslims who many serve in the military.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say. Wanted to say that American Muslims are serving in each part of society, including the United States Armed Forces, and the American Muslims that are serving in the United States Armed Forces are very loyal, very patriotic as the next soldier. I myself serve in the United States Navy. I have a brother who's a captain in the United States Army, and he is right now involved in the Pentagon recovery operation as we speak. He's one of the ones who's heading it up for Military District Washington. The reprisals that are going on against American Muslims right now are coming out of ignorance and nothing more, and we just want to tell everybody that we are here and we support our Commander-in-Chief, our President, and we are as patriotic as the next Muslim. I myself am ready to be called up at any time. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any more questions?
Was it too hot to have more questions?
Well, thank you very much.
We'll go in the shade and retire. We'll be available for any individual questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
people who believe in no discrimination? Because conservatives have. General